Prince Harry has returned to the UK once again, but this visit carries a very different tone. It doesn't feel like a moment of reconciliation or a hopeful attempt to mend relationships. Instead, it comes across more like someone trying to gain entry to an exclusive event where his presence is clearly unwelcome. From the moment he arrived, laid a wreath in memory of the late Queen, and made sure the media was informed, the entire move seemed deliberate. Subtlety was not the goal. It felt more like a calculated attempt to remind the public that he still exists, still has feelings, and still wants to belong, even as most people appear to have moved on. This visit is not the result of a royal invitation. It has been widely referred to as a pseudo-royal tour, with 4 days of engagement scheduled, all met with silence from Buckingham Palace. No public acknowledgement, no official statement, and certainly no warm welcome. That silence speaks volumes, especially considering his father, the king himself, is only a few hundred miles away, yet has shown no sign of recognizing his son's presence in the country. Speculation continues over whether King Charles might meet Harry privately, away from the spotlight. But if such a meeting does occur, it would not be an act of affection. It would be about managing public perception. Any interaction with Harry triggers a media storm, tabloid frenzy, drops in approval, ratings, and the need for palace damage control. If a quiet meeting happens, it will be hidden and heavily downplayed. The more likely scenario, however, is that it won't take place at all. Meanwhile, Prince William's calendar appears impenetrable. His days during Harry's visit are filled with scheduled events, mental health initiatives, charitable engagements, memorial appearances, none of which were arranged last minute. These commitments were confirmed well in advance, but any potential gaps have now been firmly closed. William is making no effort to suggest forgiveness or reconciliation. He's not even pretending to consider it. For Harry, this must be a bitter pill to swallow. His attempts to reconnect with the royal family seem to be falling flat. While he tries to reassert a sense of royal relevance, those still within the institution are distancing themselves, treating him like a relic of yesterday's news, and beneath all of this lies a financial reality few address openly. Harry and Meghan do not have a steady or secure income stream. Their ventures, such as the Netflix deal, are not providing the stability once afforded by royal life. This adds another layer of urgency to Harry's attempts to maintain some connection to the institution he left behind. Maintaining a high-profile lifestyle in California comes with a hefty price tag, and without consistent income, the pressure is evident. So when Harry turns up at charity events like Wellchild, people can't help but wonder, is he there for the cause, or is there a financial incentive behind it? He's been tied to that charity for 17 years, but the timing of his latest appearance, complete with cameras flashing and awards in hand, feels far from accidental. It looks like another move to stay visible, another attempt to remind the public he's still a prince. What makes this even more striking is Meghan's absence. She's made it clear she won't return to the UK unless it's absolutely unavoidable. Some attribute that decision to concerns over safety, others to pride, but in reality, it's a calculated move. Meghan has no desire to step back into a space where she never truly felt accepted. Instead, she leaves Harry to manage the optics alone, to try to repair bridges that were burned long ago. Harry's efforts come across as a kind of staged re-entry, as though he still holds an unofficial royal role that carries weight. But this isn't 2018 anymore. The public goodwill has faded, trust has eroded, and the sympathy narrative has been exhausted. The monarchy isn't interested in revisiting old dramas, whether through television specials or tell-all documentaries. They've drawn clear boundaries, presenting a united front while leaving Harry firmly on the outside, metaphorically knocking at the glass and hoping to be let back in. On paper, he's making all the right moves: public speeches, charity appearances, symbolic gestures like laying a wreath for the late Queen. But the reception has been lukewarm at best. People haven't forgotten his legal battles over security, or how he painted the UK as an unsafe environment, effectively turning on the very nation that once embraced him as the people's prince. Those actions struck a nerve not only with politicians but also with everyday citizens. And then there's the contradiction. Harry insists the UK is too dangerous for his children and too risky for Meghan. Yet he continues to travel back on his own without hesitation. Nothing has changed except his growing need for attention and relevance. His team frames this trip as an attempt at reconciliation, shifting responsibility onto the royal family. But the reality is much clearer. It isn't about reconciliation. It's about survival in the spotlight. You can't set fire to the house and then ask for your bedroom back. What makes this trip stand out is that it's the longest Harry has spent in the UK since the Queen's funeral. He's lingering, almost as if he's waiting for someone to finally approach him and say, "All right, let's sit down and talk." But that moment never comes. King Charles is in Scotland, mourning quietly. William is avoiding any possible encounter. And Meghan? She's thousands of miles away in California, likely enjoying a calm life in Montecito, watching the drama play out like a series she helped produce. This is where the real conflict lies. Harry isn't only trying to reconcile with his family, he's also trying to reshape his narrative. The problem is, the rest of the cast isn't playing along. They have no interest in his redemption story. William, in particular, seems to have drawn the firmest line. Some reports even suggest that palace staff deliberately scheduled his engagements to coincide with Harry's visit, ensuring no chance of a run-in, no awkward photo opportunities, and no headlines about brotherly reunions. It feels intentional, and for Harry, that must sting. Because for him, this isn't just about duty or protocol, it's about identity. He left Britain hoping to redefine himself as a husband, a father, a modern man separate from the institution. But somewhere along the way, that clarity slipped away. Now he's caught in a strange in-between, no longer fully royal, but not entirely part of Hollywood either. He's drifting, and neither world seems eager to claim him. Meanwhile, the public's patience has worn thin. Every speech, every appearance feels like PR strategy rather than genuine connection. Each emotional moment is dissected, and the response is no longer sympathy but fatigue. The narrative of Harry as the wronged outsider has been played too many times, and people simply aren't buying it anymore. If Harry hoped this visit would be a reset, the reality has been sobering. Life doesn't follow a script. There's no dramatic reunion scene with his brother. No heartfelt apology to his father backed by swelling music. This isn't fiction, it's family. And in family, broken trust doesn't repair itself just because you booked a flight. Rumors swirl that Harry is still holding on to the idea of returning to the UK permanently, bringing his children, perhaps even stepping into some honorary role if the atmosphere changes. But that's wishful thinking. The old life is gone. The doors aren't merely shut, they're locked tight. The palace isn't waiting for his comeback, and the public isn't clamoring for it either. What people remember isn't the young, carefree prince. They remember everything that came after, and that's the story that continues to define him. People don't just remember the young prince walking behind Diana's coffin, they also remember the man in a California mansion, aiming criticism across the Atlantic. The thing is, Harry isn't despised, not completely. There's still a portion of the public, particularly older generations who witnessed his childhood grief, that genuinely hopes he'll find peace. But even their patience is thinning. Years have passed, and every supposed effort at reconciliation seems only to stir more conflict. It's as though Harry keeps trying to apologize with a microphone in hand. That's the disconnect. The royal family doesn't do public soul-searching. They don't settle disputes through press tours, interviews, or emotional speeches. Their way is silence, closing the door, drawing the curtains, and waiting for the storm to pass. But Harry continues knocking louder, convinced that if people just heard his side, everything would shift in his favor. Meghan's influence looms large in all this. She fought her own battles with the royals, but when she left for good. No looking back, no lingering. From the outside, she seems firmly planted in her new life. New projects, new networks, and a sense of moving forward. Harry, by contrast, appears restless. He's still circling the gates, never fully at peace with the decision to walk away. It hasn't gone unnoticed that Harry seems to be distancing himself from his California life as well. Each trip back to the UK lasts a little longer. Each excuse to remain on British soil feels less like duty and more like retreat. Those close to him say he's admitted he misses the old life, the order, the traditions, the sense of belonging that came with being a working royal. And perhaps that's the hardest realization of all, that the life he thought he was escaping may have been the only one where he truly felt purposeful. All the talk about security concerns or Meghan's reluctance to return now rings hollow, a convenient deflection from a harsher truth. Harry and Meghan torched the bridge themselves, publicly and willingly. And bridges, once destroyed so publicly, don't come with instructions for rebuilding, especially not when William won't even make eye contact and Charles, balancing his own grief, has no desire to fit reconciliation into his schedule. Still, Harry presses on, laying wreaths, shaking, hands, smiling for cameras, acting as though these gestures might reset the narrative. But so far, none of it seems to be working. The royal family remains unmoved, the public remains skeptical, and Harry remains caught between the life he left and the one he hasn't fully built. Maybe for Harry, all of this still carries a deeper meaning. Maybe he truly believes that if he finds the right words, makes the right gestures, and plays the role convincingly enough, the royal family will eventually open the door to him again. But the reality is far less hopeful. The story has already been told, the institution has moved forward, and the spaces he once occupied have long since been filled. What's left is Harry, still clinging to the script, performing in a costume, for a character that no one recognizes or believes in anymore.